In this episode, we're going to share with you how to make over £300,000 profit per year as a professional property investor. I am here in the studio with my good friend, my amazing mentee, who is now one of the Assets for Life mentors, the one and only Hadjer.
Hi.
How are you, my dear?
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's wonderful to have you in. This is our second episode together, so I know our viewers are going to be really excited for a catch-up. And you have just grown massively over the last couple of years.
Thanks to you, and thank you very much.
Oh, well, you know, it's, you put the work in, you do exactly what we ask you to do, and you're a real big inspiration to people. And let's just go back to when it all started.
Right.
So how did you meet me? Why did you decide that you were going to get into property?
Right. It's actually a very, very funny story how I met you. And I always wanted to become a business person. I wanted to have a business on my own. I wanted to do something for myself. I never saw myself doing or always working for someone else, making someone else rich rather than making myself rich. So I said to myself, okay, if I work the exact same hours and the same efforts, or maybe a little bit more for myself, and then why not? So I was looking for different businesses. I was looking at the trading. I was looking at literally different businesses. And one day there was an event in central London that was meant to be, how to start a business. So I said to myself, okay, you know what? I'm going to go and see if there is an opportunity for myself. So I walked in the hotel, just ran through the reception area and asked where the event was. And it happened that there was 2 business events in the same hotel. But the receptionist, when she directed me, she said, go straight ahead and turn right. So I went straight ahead, turned right, was a little bit late, but when I walked in, everyone was seated, someone's walking on stage, like, okay, shit, I'm a little bit late, let me just grab a seat. So I grabbed a seat, and the only available seat was by the front. So I grabbed that seat, dead silence, everyone is paying attention, took my notebook. A few minutes in, I realized, like, uh-oh, this is actually not what I'm here for. This guy's talking about property. I'm not here for property. So I thought, you know what? It's very embarrassing for me to walk in late. It's going to be even more embarrassing for me to walk out. So I said, you know what? There must be a break somewhere, somehow throughout the day, and I'll just join the other event. But a few minutes in, it was you talking about property and how you can start in property without having a lot of money, without putting down a huge amount of money for a deposit, without having to purchase, and it sounded like you were talking to me. So I said to myself, you know what? Forget about the other event. I'm here for open for a business opportunity. It could be property. I always loved property, but I never really thought it was easy to jump in and just get into the property ladder.
What did you think about property?
I always thought it was for people of a certain age. That's one. You have to have specific diplomas for you to be able to, exercise in property. That you have to have capital to be able to buy and then rent and whatever it was. And I thought it was complicated. It was all these ideas. And I was there sitting as a student, new to the UK, not knowing a lot of how the rules are and how it works. So that was an eye-opening on how I could start in property without really any of these things in my head. And I know so many people are watching thinking the same thing. And you were talking about strategy, and that strategy was rent to rent. Well, how you don't need a huge credit score, how you don't need a lot of money, and how you can get the property from a landlord as a unit and just go and rent it out. I'm like, oh my God, I can do that. I can, yes, I don't have a lot of things. I definitely can do that.
Great.
So that's what I jumped on.
Great. So you joined my advanced training, something I call my scholarship program.
Yeah.
You came to the Property Millionaire Boot Camp.
Correct.
You invested in that training, and we've been working together ever since. And I remember you getting your first deal over the line. It wasn't necessarily your best deal.
No.
And how much did that first ever deal make you in that first year?
Right. So I'm gonna say it in a month. Every month it was making me £400.
Okay,
That was the first deal ever. I've gone from a property to another. Watched that. The landlords trusted me, gave me that one property. I'm like, okay, I've negotiated with him to have a 1 month rent free. Something that we've learned in the boot camp, and applied it. It worked. I was a bit confused, like, oh my god, it's working, you know. So it worked, and within a few days, the property was already gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, I have 1 month free, where the tenant's actually paying me £400 extra, and I don't even need to pay rent for the landlord yet until next month.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my god, all I need to do now is to duplicate this, get another property.
Rinse and repeat, isn't it? Find something that works, choose the right strategy. You know, you were looking for cash flow. You was working at Selfridges as the perfume girl, pretty much on low wage, 12 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. I know you had a big driving force was to help your mum as well, very similar to me many years ago. Obviously, I still want to help my mum as well, but that was a big driving force for you.
Right.
And what's really wonderful about the rent-to-rent strategy is minimum cash in, maximum profit out. Anyone can get started. You don't have to own the property.
Nope.
You manage it, you rent it from a landlord, and then they allow you to use it as serviced accommodation or as a HMO. So you got your first one up and running. We then went into COVID and you had 12 properties.
Correct.
I said to you at the time, this is your time to pounce. There's a lot of opportunity now through this period because everyone's going to be scared. And you came out of COVID with how many deals?
Came out of COVID with 45 properties.
Wow.
So went from 12 pre-COVID all the way to 45 properties, and that was just crazy to see. At that time, where everyone was skeptical, everyone was scared and worried about what the situation was going to be, they say, whenever there is a problem, there is a solution. Great. So I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a huge problem to the property industry, but there must be a solution. The solution is us. So when everyone was just returning properties to the landlord, I was like, hey, let me take that property off you. And now I have two of my biggest landlords, where one of them is actually have 26 properties from him alone.
Wow.
And that was all built throughout COVID.
Wow. So that's what's really important, is it? Build the relationship.
Yeah.
Do a good job. Pay the landlord their guaranteed rent.
Yeah.
And a lot of landlords have other properties, and that's obviously one way you've been able to scale. Now, you've gone from 44, did you just say? Or 45 properties. Fast forward to where we are today, you've just hit a huge milestone. How many properties do you have in the portfolio, either that you rent to rent or you manage as a management agent?
Altogether, we have 103 properties. We hit our 100 properties in the end of November, and that was one of the most emotional moments for me.
Well, you sent me a voice note nearly in tears. Well, I think you were. I think it was in tears. I was like, whoa!
I have not felt that emotional. I only felt that emotional when I first got my first property. First time I got my first property, I called my mom straight away, and I'm like, Mom, it's working. And when I rented to my first, I'm a very emotional person. Very, very emotional person. You can tell me anything and I'll just be in tears, right? And the first property, and property number 100, was the thing that told me, yes, you've made it. Property number 1 was like, yes, this works. And property 100 was like, yes, Hadjer, you've made it. And property 100 was the moment when I realized that everything that I've done and that everything that I've gone through is worth it.
Would you say it's almost like a moment where you were able to give yourself some sort of self-recognition and affirmation that actually you're doing a great job?
Yes. For someone who has come from a different country, I'm originally from Algeria, and I came here in 2014, not knowing about anything, thinking to myself, what's going to happen? It's a completely different culture, land, continent, weather, everything was different. For me to be able and say to myself, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can change your life, and the people who are depending on you is an achievement. And it's also a recognition, humbly saying it, that anyone can do it. With me, English is my fourth language. I had a lot of doubts in myself. I had a lot of moments where I said to myself, oh, maybe I can't, maybe it's not for me, you know, but actually I have managed to learn, I've managed to join programs, I've managed to shut those, you know, ideas down and say to myself, no,
you can do it, you can do it. So let's do some quick fire round questions, yeah? What keeps you motivated?
My mum and my brothers.
Wow, lovely. And what does success mean to you?
Success means to me is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, wake up whenever you want, do exactly and live the lifestyle you want to live, all throughout seeing everyone around you happy.
Fantastic.
Not just yourself.
Now I'm known as Liam Ryan, the deal maker. So what does being a deal maker mean to you?
Being a deal maker means challenging yourself and not giving up until you actually get that one thing you want.
So staying really focused.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not giving up. Yeah, I love your drive, and obviously you're a huge inspiration. And you know, look, you're making over 300 grand a year from a property business where you don't own a single property. And you know, what impact has this had on your life and your family's life?
It's actually what made me going until now. And it is that moment where I see that someone else who is depending on me struggling for the minimal rights of life. And to me, at the time when I was working in Selfridges, spraying people with perfume, I was only getting about 200, 300 pounds extra a month. That was not the life I wanted to live. That was not what I wanted to do. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sending my mom money. I'm sending her 100 or 200 pounds every month, but that's not actually what I want to do. And in fact, at some point in life, we were almost getting evicted from our house that we lived in.
Wow.
So when that happened to me, I was like, I need to change my life. I need to, you know, I need to make this the reason why I'm doing it. And that's what kept me going. And from property, I managed to buy ourselves a house back home.
Wow.
And now my mom is never going to be evicted ever.
Never going to be evicted. Own our property. That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and she's happy with the architects and just doing this and you know, content.
Wow. Well, look, you've had some huge achievements. If someone's tuning into this now, that's say at the early part of their journey, can they really get started with no experience?
Absolutely. That's how I started.
Can they get started just 5-7 hours a week?
Yes.
Can.
That's all you need.
Can they really get started using other people's property?
Oh, yes.
And can you do this using other people's money?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
So, and how do you feel? Someone coming into this now, or maybe they've got a few deals and they're looking for a high cash flow model. How do you particularly see the serviced accommodation, HMO, relocation, rent to rent model working over these next 1 to 5 years?
Right, it's the best models, best of the models. I would say to people, okay, even if you still have money, even if you have money now, right? Don't put all that money into one deal. If you can put it into multiple deals that would bring the exact same amount of cash, if that's what you're looking for, because I'm sure a lot of people, 80% of people will look for cash flow, right?
Cash flow, yeah.
So I would suggest that someone starts to get cash flow using service accommodation and HMO and, you know, relocation property business, and then get the exact same amount of money as if you get one property, and then grow it to why not then jump into other strategies. So cash flow
is important, isn't it? Yeah.
Cash flow.
Fantastic. So what's next for Hadjer?
What's next for Hadjer is to probably double in 2023.
Are you gonna go? Oh my goodness, yes.
Probably double.
Well, you're building momentum now. That's the problem. It's far easier to go from 50 to 100 than it probably was to go from 1 to 10 or 1 to 20.
Yeah.
It's easier now. You got a team in place. You got offices in place. You got cash in the bank. You got time on your hands. And you know, I know you're very leveraged and you've got a team that are doing it for you. You have a great lifestyle. You go on lots of holidays, but you've got a team in place now and you've got a great name. So let's do this again this time next year.
Absolutely.
We've actually got our award ceremony tonight, our
Yes.
yearly reward. So
Looking forward to it.
who knows? You may be up for an award. I don't know, but let's see what
Let's cross
happens.
fingers.
Let's see what happens tonight. And I think above all, let's just keep having fun, right?
Absolutely.
It's important, isn't it? You know, anyone can do this. A massive well done. Thanks for being a great student. Thanks for being a great team player. Thanks for being a great mentor within the Assets for Life community.
It's a pleasure.
And
thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's team effort, right? It's
Absolutely,
team effort.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we will tune in with you this time next year.
Yes.
The interview is in the diary already, and we will see if you've gone from 100 to 200. But hey,
I always keep my words, Leo.
even if you go from 103 to 113, that will be still very, very good.
Yeah.
But I believe you could be at 200 this time next year, and let's see where you're
Thank
at.
you so
Thanks
much.
for coming in.
Thank you so much
It's
for having
been
me.
absolutely.
It's a
Just
pleasure.
one last thing. Where can people hook you up? If you're a landlord and you've got a property or someone with rent to rent and they would like you to manage their properties, how can they hook you up?
Right, so we have two companies, one called Mona Lisa Property and the other one called New Door Estates. They both serve the different purposes. One is for management and one is for guaranteed rent. It depends on what you are looking for exactly. But hit me up at Hadjer Beyaz, either on Instagram or Facebook, and we will see what we can do for you. You can book a call and see what we can do for you. Mona Lisa Property or New Door Estates, whichever you prefer.
Wow, awesome. Well, look, there we have it. What an amazing, amazing episode. And you can just see there, Hadjer, she's fully transformed over these last 4 years. She's become an expert in her field. She's making over £300,000 a year net profit. If Hadjer can do it, then you can do it too. So look, if you are tuning into this right now and you are starting or scaling a property business and you are looking for help, support, guidance, then why don't you, in the description, hit the link. I have got a number of free property training events in the diary. Come and hang out with me and my team. You could be the next Hadjer, and we will show you exactly what you need to do to cash flow nicely, start, scale and grow. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your situation is. If you want to get into property, you want a better lifestyle, you want more cash, then I am the person for you. So hit the link in the description and I'll see you in another episode.